and people noticing that things ain't right. So we're gonna check out one more, and then we'll talk about. I'm gonna call it a night, and then tomorrow we coming right back. We're gonna also do a little review again, and we may get to the Fantastic Four review. I want to talk about that because wow, we got a lot to say about that. But tomorrow it looks like I'm gonna do a review on these two movies I seen. I saw Weapons. Ugh, I mean, and I seen some people's reviews, and I want to talk about the confusion that I'm having, and the movie Together, which was nowhere near the quality or setup of the substance. But we'll talk about that tomorrow. But this video we're gonna watch right now is about Stuck in 1999 and how after 1999, or so whatever the update he talking about is definitely true. But also in this, there's some truth to this because it's like you're gonna see what I'm talking about. We can all agree that ain't nothing new really coming out, not even when it comes to fashion, and even with the way style has come along, and how galas have come along, and how like, bro, this the fashion is what happened. I don't know. Well, I do know. We're getting ready to meet another race of beings, and we're gonna finally, that's neither here nor there. But I'm gonna share this video with y'all. Let me mute my mic so you can go.
Distinct style of what the culture was like, with very specific fashion, TV shows, music, design, and everything else. But after 1999, that all stopped. You could look at a TV show from 2005 or 2025, and how the people act and dress and design their spaces pretty much stayed the same. At least, that's the strange, thought-provoking theory people are starting to talk about. And I can tell you, I was there. The 80s and the 90s were so distinctly different from each other, and we could see looking back at how different each decade was from the 50s through to the 90s. We were fully aware. That's why Back to the Future was such a fantastic movie. The nostalgia from the 50s was palpable. But the questions I keep coming back to are, why have the decades since 2000 seemed relatively the same? Are we stuck in a time warp? Has culture ground to a halt on purpose? I decided to collect all the evidence I could find of this bizarre Matrix-style time freeze and see if we can figure out what's actually going on. Is it just a pile of technological and social issues creating this, or is there evidence of other theories? Let's go through all of them. Join me, investigative researcher Rob Counts, for a metaphysical show that's out of this world.
You believe it's the year 1999, when in fact it's closer to 2199. I can't tell you exactly what year it is, because we honestly don't know.
I can't tell you what year it is either. And if you think about it, we're sort of existing in the Matrix time warp concept now. And it gets even weirder if you start looking at people's appearances. Now, I know what you're gonna say. How could things be the same in all the years since 2000? Look at all the massive advancements in computers and technology. I mean, sure, I get it. It's not that nothing has changed. We're talking about cultural distinctions between our decades. But the craziest of all for me of this Matrix time warp was one example I saw on social media. If you watch The Office, which I do, and it's consistently ranked as one of the most popular shows of all time, all of what they're wearing and how their hair is styled and everything looks just like today. You could not guess the year any episode was filmed if you didn't already know, because it literally could be any year beginning with a 2.
They're the same picture.
The Office actually ran from 2005 to 2013, so it should be decades out of date. But teenagers today have a more extreme version of Jim's hair in season 1. They have a fluffy mop or semi-perm of broccoli hair now, or some in Gen Z have a partial comeback of 90s hair. Where did the distinct decade styles go? Fashion seems to be stuck in this limbo land without anything truly new coming onto the scene, and all kinds of duplicates or copies of the past are coming forward. Just think about all these decade styles. They were so distinct. Greasy Elvis and James Dean hair came from men in the 50s, and Marilyn Monroe and Audrey. Things got strange. The 2000s never really found itself. It was just a mashup of every style from past decades. Both wide and skinny jeans, sportswear, tight clothes, baggy clothes, hair of every length. I mean, just go into the mall today and you won't find one decade's fashion, you'll see them all. And we've been post-1999 for 25 years. But it's not just fashion, of course. That's just the most obvious because we look at people all the time. Have you noticed that Hollywood doesn't seem to be able to produce a unique script anymore? At least not for our movies. All our movies seem to be remakes of the past creative stuff that came out of the last century, and specifically the late 70s through the 80s and 90s. Take a look at this list of remakes I curated from a much larger...
All they do is give us remakes because they got to keep us. Remember, movies is how they upload the simulation into us. This is what they use now. Ever since, especially since they gone digital, it's become even more prominent than ever before. That's what they use, right? But let's just look at the list of movies to just show you how they've been keeping us in a loop. Let's just go ahead and check that out.
Larger list on IMDb. Total Recall, RoboCop, Point Break, Footloose, The Karate Kid, War of the Worlds, The Day the Earth Stood Still, Hairspray, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Cinderella, King Kong, Clash of the Titans, Carrie, Planet of the Apes, and I hardly brought up any of the horror movies they've remade. That list is huge. Have people gotten lazy, or could something else be going on? In ancient Greek culture, they talked about muses. It was the muses who imparted to people their inspiration for creativity. All creativity came from them. When people had a creative block, they used to say that they'd lost touch with their muses or that the muses had stopped taking care of them. Muses were held in extremely high esteem. What, did the muses stop taking care of people after 1999? Could we somehow be unable to create original stories anymore? And if so, why? Speaking of movies, I was watching The Matrix recently, and something jumped out at me that I hadn't ever thought about before. Why did the AI program controlling The Matrix claim that 1999 was the peak of human civilization?
The Matrix was redesigned to this, the peak of your civilization.
In the movie, 1999 was the point when humans had just enough material benefits to strive for, and just enough misery to keep them occupied that they didn't question their reality. Well, when I looked at our own reality, I realized that he was kind of right. Now, no matter what examples we find, people are just going to try to explain this away, but honestly, there's just no fun in that. If we are stuck in this weird time loop, what could have caused it? Let's go into some theories. Nostradamus predicted that in the 7th month of 1999, a great king of terror would descend on the world. Nostradamus said a lot of things, and I'm not really sure I buy the world ending is what he meant by that. But what is weird is that in late June of 1999, the comet Hale-Bopp was in the sky. Some theories suggest that the comet really hit the Earth back then. But if that were the case, why are we all still here? It would have been devastating to the point of destroying all of civilization. It's said that when you die, your brain lives on for 7 minutes, replaying your memories or living out new ones in a dreamlike state. And in dreams, as we know, time moves differently from when we're awake. Many people who have had near-death experiences have explained what it's like to have their life flash before their eyes. So what if we're living in the interdimensional spaces of our brains after we've already died? 7 minutes could feel like an eternity. According to The Matrix, the world ended in 1999. AI took us over and the sky was scorched. Believe it or not, some people really believe that we're living in an artificial projection and that AI really did take us over, which, looking at the fashion industry right now, that could be true. The holographic universe theory states that our three-dimensional universe is a two-dimensional projection on a cosmic scale. Basically, we're living in a massive cosmic hologram, and everything we perceive as being 3D is really just an illusion. What's weird is that there might be some truth to this. Now, every planet gives off a frequency, a vibration, and a sound. We know there are connections between objects in the cosmos, and that it gives our reality stability, like the push and pull between particles. That's not weird. But what if those elements of our solar system actually operate like transmission towers that keep our reality the way it is, like projection?
Every month, this Airbnb pays me about $2,700 in semi-passive income. Now, here's the thing. I don't
like projection points in a matrix. If we're talking about being stuck in a matrix time warp, we can go even further. Some believe Saturn is giving off these frequencies that are being transmitted to objects like the moon and the Earth.
See, Saturn is considered the cube. They say a lot of all of this comes from Saturn. What did they mean? Their ideal of literal and contextual may have been very different when they made that statement. That's a translation. It's getting closer to the truth. This is why they have to tell us that they exist. Of course, it's a hologram. Your eyes don't see, your ears don't hear. None of that's actually happening. Your eyes are just taking in light, processing it through rods and chromes, and that's getting shot through your brain. And then something inside of there is making sense of that, then flipped it in every direction, every possible variation, and then gave you this, because this is what you wanted to see. Make sure you subscribe to Metaphysical. Also, this guy's got a really great way of looking at this, but it's still from the perspective of being someone who's never seen any of this. And I really don't care what people think. I'm not really focused on what people think anymore. I have had a calling to go ahead and speak on certain things, and I'm going to speak on it. You're going to discover that outer space is an electric plasmic ocean. I know because I've been out there. I've seen it. I experienced it. The orbs took me. They gave me 2 messages on that journey. The first message they said was, the key to all your suffering is your identity. Let your identity go. And it took me down to the planet, like this planet, just water. We went into the water and I was scared. I drowned before. I was panicking. And I looked over at the light, the ball of light, and it was like, it said, the way to heaven is through the water. We went through a tunnel of light and I entered my body, and my wife told me I hadn't been breathing. You know, people might try to, no, what I saw, I couldn't describe. So no, it didn't come from some near-death experience of putting some things together of what I know. This was almost indescribable. But let's get back to what he's talking, because this is, once again, this is connected to the 1999, 1988. Notice these times here, you know, and what happened in this time period. Very profound things happened that shifted us to where we are now. A lot of this feels very instant because what came from it was like turned on like a light switch one day and we was in it. But there were steps that was taken to assure that when they flipped that switch, the light would come on.
And that creates some type of projection. Well, in mythology, Saturn is the god of time and another name for Kronos, so maybe time really is different now. The scientist Stephen Hawking once warned that when we find the God particle, it could one day be responsible for the destruction of the entire universe. And Hawking was not the only scientist who thought so. Their theory was that the Higgs boson is the precise mass needed to keep the universe on the brink of instability. But its delicate state will eventually collapse, leaving the universe unstable. In fact, if this God particle were real, it could usher in a quantum doomsday. On July 4th, 2012, the God particle, also known as the Higgs boson, was found. What if the discovery of this particle indeed destroyed the universe as we know it, or at the very least changed it? Did you know that the most advanced calendar of the ancient world was the Maya calendar? This calendar only recorded up until December 21st, 2012, the same year the God particle was found. What if? Well, it doesn't seem like the world ended in 2012, or did it? Because something strange is definitely going on. In 2013, Nelson Mandela died, but a bizarrely huge number of people remember him dying years earlier in the 90s. I'm one of those people. On December 5th, 2013, I was designing the front page of a newspaper in New York City where I used to work. As I laid it out, I remembered leaning over to an editor and saying, "Didn't this guy die already?" Now, if it were just one event, you could easily write it off as people not remembering what happened. But this was the first of so many glitches in the Matrix. I'll list a few here.
Oh, déjà vu.
In the movie Snow White, the evil stepmother gazes into the mirror. Remember what she says? Mirror, mirror on the wall, right? Nope, now it's magic mirror on the wall. Literally, no one remembers magic mirror. Then Sinbad was never in a movie that everyone, including me, remembers coming out in the 90s called Shazam. Shaq was even in a knockoff remake called Kazam. Shazam doesn't exist, but Kazam still does. No one can figure it out. Ed McMahon never worked for Publishers Clearinghouse and gave people giant checks. There's even footage of Johnny Carson talking about Ed doing this, but it officially never happened, and he never.
There's no way. You can't. The funniest thing is like how you don't. That's like if that's a psyop, that's the ultimate gaslighting. There's no way you can tell me Ed McMahon. It's the only way I know Ed McMahon. I don't know him from Johnny Carson like that. I know Ed McMahon from Publishing Clearinghouse. Like so many people that I was like, he never was a part of that. Never happened. That never. You guys are tripping. That never happened. Now the thing is, it wouldn't be bizarre if we all agreed, because then we would know something's happening. But to actually have people that say, no, he wasn't. I don't ever remember him ever being that guy. He never was. That's what makes it bizarre. You have to realize something's going on. I mean, at what point are you just going to be like, something's going on? Like, really? Are you really going to just keep acting like nothing's happening? Really? I'm just saying, like, does your job mean that much to you? That you be willing to just ignore reality completely? I don't know. Okay, let's keep going.
Worked there. I can't figure that out either. I remember my entire childhood seeing that guy holding up checks in commercials all the time between my cartoons. C-3PO now has a silver leg in the Star Wars movie. The weird part, my action figure when I was a kid didn't have that, and no one can remember this in the movie. But when you go back and check the old VHS tapes and Laserdiscs, the silver leg is indeed there. These mysterious examples have led people to speculate that something really did happen in 2012, and we're living in a different timeline. Why the universe would choose something so close but with these minor differences in details, I can't answer. But instead of it being evidence the world ended and we're stuck in a time warp, perhaps it's evidence we were saved. And this was as close as we could get to the original timeline. One final theory on why we've been living in weirdness for the last 25 years, where everything seems to be staying the same, could be that technology is collapsing time. Now, follow me on this one. The theory is that as technology develops, the speed of advancements also increases until eventually it advances at such an exponential rate that the speed becomes infinite, like an infinite loop. Now, Moore's law is one similar example because starting in the 60s, the number of components in integrated circuits were doubling every year. Moore predicted that if the pattern continued, the rate of growth of these semiconductors would become enormous, which it did as the semiconductor industry took this as a challenge. With artificial intelligence being created now and man really merging more and more with machine, this exponential improvement rate of tech has already started. In the time since 1999, in real life, we've been stuck in the same kind of minimally changing culture, except for changes driven by technology. We interact less, socialize less, trends come and go much quicker, and time progression is harder to mark because there are fewer tangible things to mark that time with. Let me give you an example. I saw a comment on YouTube from someone who said they were able to mark the time in the 2000s by when they were married and when their children were born. And I agree, families are a huge marker of time progression, as are major events like weddings, births, deaths, and high school graduation. But whereas in the past, people were going out to participate in more weekly activities, physically doing more things, today there's even less movement and activity. Fewer people go to the mall and even to the grocery store. Teenage trips to the movies, mini golf, or loitering around happen less often than everyone interacting on the phone. Now, this is not criticism of our current reality. In fact, I think there may be some benefits to this limbo land, time warp, matrix reality we seem to be stuck in. We've got so much more of a chance to make choices that change things. Some people think this is super depressing, that we're not creative anymore, we're relying on AI instead of originality, and things are increasingly gray. But it also seems like the past 2.5 decades have actually been like one larger time period the way one decade was in the past. And as more people become interested in innovation again, things are going to change rapidly. The people breaking out of the matrix and seeing that there's something more to reality happens every day. Just check out the comments on my Dreams Are Real episode, it's going to blow your mind. Now, some people may argue that in the past, the decades weren't really that distinct. I've heard that the 80s was just inspired by the 60s, and the 90s were just a redo of the 70s, as our parents' styles came back around in their own kids' youth. But I think you really gotta see the obvious differences in style here. I mean, I was there. No, the 80s was very unique, and the 90s was too. The 90s grunge look came from Seattle, and I have to say, part of the skateboarding culture. While the 70s style was a reaction to an anti-war movement, the 60s hippie time period had color and go-go boots, sure, but that's totally different from the neon fluorescence and insanely big hair of my 80s childhood. You cannot say those were the same. But why are trains a little faster now, cars a little less varied, and planes haven't really improved at all in decades? In decades, while targeted ads on our phones are so good, they seem to be able to read our minds. Are we really stuck in a matrix time warp? What are we going to do with this extra time? And what will the world look like in another 10 or 50 years? Leave me a comment with what you guys think, because
You see? And there it is, right? And I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna tell you like this, right? When he's talking about how the matrix, or if this is a matrix, or if how do we, that this is, maybe it's not such a bad thing. It's like, it's very obvious to me, right, that it's not a loop. We didn't get, or a loop like that he's expressing it. We didn't just get blown up and we all just dying in our minds. That this is an active thing. If it's a matrix, then you're an eternal being that they've made, something has got its hand, manipulated into its service. But what do you think about that video? How did you feel? I like to know what people really felt about that and what you think about that, because for me, it was like, wow, yeah, you could definitely see the patterns of how everything stopped. You see how everything has been recycling itself. And, you look at your cell phone, you look at what they call it, the 6G, 5G, Internet of Things, all this. But when you look at our cars, you look at our transportation, you look at certain industries, there's no real growth there. Like, cars don't utilize gas better. They don't. Right? Still, driving cars, you know. And another thing about the AI, he was mentioning about how, oh, it's draining all our we're not creative. The AI, it's like, well, the AI ain't teaching itself. Well, it's teaching itself, but it's not creating what it's learning. It's doing it from us. It's absorbing our creativity and regurgitating it. It can't regurgitate it something that isn't there. It can't absorb something that isn't there. So obviously the creativity is there, but it's been what creativity we get exposed to. But this has been a really powerful stream. I'm gonna end it here, and I'll be back tomorrow or later today, and we could pick back up. And I'm gonna come with a couple other things. I want to thank you for joining me. Appreciate it. Please leave a like and a comment so we can get the algorithm to pick this up. And like I said, please check out my book, Shatterpoint, Beyond the Veil, Shatterpoint. It's on Amazon. It's a wonderful. It's not just wonderful. It is everything we be talking about, and I put it into the form of story, and from my own experiences and other things that I've been attributed to, and I've taken that and I've created a great world out of that, and I got 2 more books coming behind it and a prequel. If you hit me up in the comment section, I will reach out to you and I will get you a copy of the prequel for free. So thank you for joining me again. I had a great time, and I look forward to seeing you first thing tomorrow. Hey, have a wonderful, wonderful evening. And always remember, whenever you go looking for the truth outside of yourself, truth gets further and further away.